Welcome back, class. This is your Catia mentor, and in this video we're going to learn how to create a hole pattern and also how to populate the hole pattern with fasteners in one shot or in two steps. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with an assembly, and in that assembly we're going to insert a new part. Alright, so let's go ahead and double click on the part body of our new part. So we can go from assembly to part mode, double click. If it doesn't take you to part design, then you can always go to part design, app. It'll take you directly to the part design workbench or app. Alright, so let's start by creating a simple sketch. I'll make a rectangular sketch with the length of, let's say, 16 inches and a depth of 4 inches. 4 inches. And let's go ahead and exit and turn it into a pad. Let me make sure change this to 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch in height. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our first hole. So I'm going to hold on to the control key. Before I do, actually, let me let go of the control key. Let me right click on the part body, right click properties, and give this a color. Let's go with tan. Alright, so I'm going to hold on to the control key and pre-select the edges. And I'll use these edges to locate the hole from. Okay, so let's go to hole command. Click on the surface. And by pre-selecting those edges, we have these offsets off of both edges. Okay, so let's double click on one of them. And let's change it to 1 inch distance from the edge to the center of our hole. Okay, double click on the other one. Change that to 1 inch. And OK. Actually, don't hit OK. Let's give it a diameter. And I'm going to use a half-13 bolt. So a half-inch diameter bolt, 0.5. And let's add a little bit of clearance to the bolt or the hole to give clearance to the bolt. So let's add 1/16 or 1/32 to our half-inch and click away. Converts it to 0.563, which is pretty much 9/16. Okay, typically a clearance hole should be about 10% larger than the fastener. Alright, so let's go up to last on the depth all the way through, and let's hit preview. Okay, so we have a 9/16 or 0.5625 inch diameter, and it's located 1 inch from each edge with respect to its center. Alright, so now let's convert this to a counterbore hole. Let's go to counterbore. So this is our first diameter. Now let's go over to our second diameter for the large counterbore hole. And I'm going to guess and say 7/8 or 0.875. Click away. And let me go with the depth of, let me start with 0.25. I can always change it later. So the depth, preview, is 0.25. And the diameter is 7/8 for the large hole, counterbore hole. And let's hit OK. Alright, so now we're going to create a pattern. So I'm going to pre-select the hole. We can go to rectangular pattern If you don't see it here for some reason, you can always go to transform and go to rectangular pattern. Alright, so first direction tab. So we are in the first direction tab, reference element. So we need to give it a direction. I'm going to pick this edge for direction. Let me increase the instances. As you can see, it's going in the wrong direction. So I'm going to flip it, hit preview. Okay, that's not what I want. They're too close together. Okay, so typically when it comes to hole spacing in a metal block, aluminum, steel, typically you want to go 4 times the diameter. So this is roughly about 1/2 inch diameter. Multiply times 4, it's about 2 inches. So let's go with the spacing of 2 inches. Preview, there it is. And let me increase the quantity to 8 and preview. There we have it. Okay, now let's go ahead and create another row of counterbore holes. So let's go to second direction. Second direction. We'll go in this direction this time. Oh, forgot to click inside here first. Click. Let's go in this direction. So we're going in the direction with respect to this edge. And let's increase the instances to 2. Preview. So it does include the original one. Even though we said 2 instances, it's also including the original hole. And let's also increase the spacing up to 2 inches. And preview. And OK. Now I'm going to go back to the pattern. If I double click on the pattern, I can remove holes if I want by simply clicking on the blue dots. So if I click on the blue dots, hit preview, you can see it'll hide those holes. It'll remove them as if they don't exist. You can always bring them back by selecting the dots. I know it's hard to see, so let me look at it from the bottom where it's darker. So I can always go back and select the dots and preview. And OK. Okay, so we have our counterbore holes. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is bring in a bolt. So I went to McMaster and I decided to go with a 1/2-13 bolt, 1/2 inch diameter, 13 threads per inch. And the length from the bottom of the head all the way to the end is 1.5 inch. And we have a standard socket head. And we're going with black oxide. Very popular, very common off the shelf. Alright, so I already downloaded the step and IGES file. So these are non-smart solids or surfaces that you can download. If you don't have the step file license to translate, you can always download the IGES version. IGES is surfaces, step is a solid. I already downloaded it, so I'm going to go to my download folder. Here's my step file, and just in case it doesn't work, I have the IGES as a backup. So I'm just going to left mouse click and drag into Catia and give it a few seconds to translate. So hit OK. So it's going to translate to something that we can understand in Catia. And hit OK and OK. Looks good. Okay, so this is a McMaster part number 91251A716 with black oxide coating. And as you can see, it's a socket head cap screw. Alright, so I'm going to right click, copy it into our assembly. Go to the top, right click, paste. And it's buried inside the part. So let me first double click on the assembly. So if I want to move a part within the assembly, I got to double click on the assembly first. So we're back in assembly. I'm going to use my compass, select the bolt, and I'm just going to move it over. And I'm going to place it near our first hole. Go ahead and rotate it. No need to rotate, but I just want to make it easy to constraint. Okay, I'm done with the robot or compass. So I can just drag it back to its location, its default position. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add color to the bolt. So let me double click on its part body, right click properties, and let's give it a color. And OK. Oh, and by the way, if you want to turn on lighting, go to view or increase the lighting or decrease. Go to ambience and camera. I'm going to go from default to override. And as you can see, I can change the lighting here. I'm going to go with 2 light sources. I can increase or decrease the intensity. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to place the hole, or I should say the bolt, into the first hole. So it has to be the first hole. Okay, so let's go ahead and add constraints. I'm going to go back to assembly, double click at the top of the tree. And let's go ahead and add constraints. Let me go to assembly, engineering connection. Okay, so I can add a contact constraint, surface to surface if you want, or we can do an offset. Both will work. I like to use offset just in case later on I want to add a washer. In this case, I'm not going to add a washer. I'm going to go offset from the bottom of the head of the bolt to the top of the counterbore hole. And let me put a distance of 0. Okay, so the default is 0. Okay, I'm going to add another constraint. I'm going to add a coincidence constraint. So as long as you hover over a conic shape, it'll select the axis. As you can see, it's selecting the axis of the bolt. Click and then go to the cylindrical surface. It will pick its axis and click, and there we have it. So we've located the bolt. We're happy with the location, and OK. You want to check? Yeah, sure, why not? Yes. Alright, so now let's go ahead and populate the other holes in one shot. So the first step was to first place the fastener in the original hole. And now let's go ahead and go to pattern. Okay, so I'm going to pre-select. Let me collapse some of this stuff here. I'm going to pre-select the bolt. And I'm going to go to assembly pattern. And if I either click on the pattern on the block, I can either pick the pattern from here, or I can directly pick it from the solid model. I like to play it safe and go from the tree. So go to the rectangular pattern. And it's going to populate all the holes in one shot. If you wanted to remove some of the fasteners, you can always click on the dots to remove some of the fasteners. And OK. So there we have it. Now let's say I wanted to make the head or the top of the head of the bolt flush with the surface. I believe this is a 1/2 inch height on the head of the bolt. So let me go back to the original hole. Go back to the original hole. Double click. Double click again, and let me change the depth of the counterboard to, I think it's 1/2 inch. And enter. Alright, so now let's go back to the assembly. Double click at the top of the assembly. And I'm going to right click, update. Don't blink in 3, 2, 1. It updates and it recognizes that the depth of the holes have increased. And we did put an offset of 0 between them. Let's say we wanted to go back and change the offset. So we go back to the offset. Instead of 0, let's go with an offset of, just for fun, let's go 2 inches and OK. It gives us a preview, hit OK, and it's accepted, yes. And let's right click at the top of the tree and update again. And there we have it. Alright, so hope you liked this video. See you in the next one.